Okay, guys, I just want to give you guys some directions on the assignments that I left for you today. I thought the assignments were pretty neat, so hopefully you guys will enjoy doing them. Anything you guys don't complete in class is going to be for homework, all right? So let's look at this first one. You should always, take your protractor, and well, let's read the directions first. Above are the titles of 3 books never written. To decode the names of their authors, measure each angle below and find your answer in the code. Each time the answer appears in the code, write the vertex of the letter of that angle above it. Okay? So, let's start with this first one, letter T. You want to put your protractor right at the vertex of the angle. And then you want to see, right, make sure one segment, one ray of the angle goes through 0. So I can see that it's going through 0 of my outside numbers. And then I want to see where the other ray points, and the other ray points at about, well, here's 10, here's 20, because we're looking at the outside numbers, because that's where 0 is. And in between 10 and 20 is 15, and it's a little less than 15. So that means T should be 14 degrees. So where we see 14 degrees here, I'm going to put a T. Let's try a couple more so you get the hang of it. Let's try, I don't know, let's try A. Once again, put the protractor right at the vertex of the angle, right, making sure that the one ray goes through 0. It's going through 0 of my outside numbers, and the other ray points to 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. It looks like 60 degrees, so 60 degrees should be A. Do I see a 60-degree angle? I don't see 60. Right, but I see 62, so let me just double check that. Could it be 62? Yeah, it looks like it could be a little bit more than 60, right? And that's the closest one, right? Because I don't see anything, close to 60, so that 62 angle is going to be A. So that's going to be A. Where else is 62? That's going to be A. Any other 62s? No. So you got to be within a degree or two, of the angle, and you want to pick the one that's going to be closest to it. So let's try one more. Let's do one where we got to move the protractor a bit. Let's do this upside down thing down here. All right. So I'd have to move my protractor here so that once again, the vertex of my protractor points at 0, but now it's pointing at 0 of the inside numbers. The other ray goes to 40 degrees of the inside numbers, and we're using the inside numbers because that's where 0 is, and that's where the ray is pointing through. All right, and it's 40 degrees, it looks like. So let's see what's closest to 40 degrees up here. We have a 41-degree angle, all right, so that's closest to 40, and that's what letter is that? That was letter L. So 41 degrees is going to be letter L. And the other 41 degrees? No. So that's what you guys are doing for that first assignment. You may have to move your protractor around a bit. All right, let's look at the next page. This next page, same idea. All right, I've got to grab my protractor again. So let me grab my protractor. All right, I need to copy it, paste it here. Okay, so let's look at some angles here. All right, the directions say use a protractor to construct the angles below. Each side you draw will pass through a number. Write the vertex letter of the angle in the box containing its number. All right, so let's do letter E. Once again, you have to put the center of the protractor right at the vertex of the angle. So the center of the protractor right at the vertex. I want that ray pointing through 0, so I got to adjust it a little bit. Okay, now the ray's pointing through 0. Now, we're supposed to draw a 45-degree angle. So here's 10, here's 20, here's 30, here's 40, here's 45 degrees. So I'm going to put a mark right by 45 degrees. 45 is going to be right in between 40 and 50, right? Here's 40, here's 50, right? And then we move the protractor out of the way. All right, use a ruler or the edge of the protractor to draw a ray between there, and that's going to go through number 11. So for number 11 down here, we're going to put what letter? Number 11, we're going to put the letter E. All right, I'll do one more. All right, so that we are sure what we're doing. Let's do the next one. All right, once again, put the eye of the protractor right at the vertex of the angle, and then making sure that the other bottom ray is going through 0. And then we're supposed to draw a 60-degree angle, so we're 60 degrees. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Here's 60 degrees. I'm going to put a point there. All right, and then move the protractor out of the way. Use a ruler or the edge of the protractor. Draw another ray through that number, and it looks like that is number 1, right? Couldn't see that. Let's see. What is that? Yeah, that's number 1. Number 1, we're going to write letter H. So number 1, we write letter H, and that's how you would do assignment 2. Assignment 3, do each exercise and find your answer at the bottom of the page. Write the letter of the exercise in the box above or below the answer. Now, most of these sections you should be pretty familiar with, but I'll just remind you. Complementary angles are two angles that have a sum of 90 degrees. So if I wanted to find, let's say, letter T, I would subtract 45 from 90. So 90 take away 45. That's going to be 45 degrees. So the complement, well, actually we were doing the problem solving equations, but you don't have to solve equations, right? We're just looking for the complement or the supplement. So 90 take away 45 is going to be 45 degrees. So for letter T, let's see, letter T was 45 degrees. So we come down here, oops, come down to the bottom where we see letter 45 degrees. We're going to write the letter T. All right, the next section, to find the supplementary angles are two angles that have a sum of 180. So for letters R, E, I, U, H, we're going to subtract from 180. So if I want to know letter H, I'm going to subtract 83 from 180. That's going to give me, let's see, 10, that's 7, 17, right, 97 degrees. So for letter H, 97 degrees, I come down here, I look for 97 degrees. 97 degrees is here, and I'm going to write letter H. All right. The next section of problems, they're a little bit different. Right, here's where you're going to have to write and solve equations. So let's take a look at this one. Letter N, you have a 90-degree angle plus some angle we don't know and a 60-degree angle. The angle we don't know, we're going to make that X. And then we're going to write an equation to find X. So because this is a straight angle, straight angles have a sum of 180 degrees, we're going to use an equation that says X plus 60 plus 90 equals 180. Right? That's the equation we would write. We want to add our like terms. 60 and 90 is 150. X plus 150 is 180. Subtract 150, subtract 150, and then you wind up with X is going to be equal to 30 degrees. So the measure of that angle is going to be 30 degrees. Now this work here you would do on a separate sheet of lined paper, and you would number it or letter it, letter N. But letter N is 30 degrees. Come down here, look for 30 degrees, and we would write the letter N for 30 degrees. All right. Let's look. So for each one of these, you would just make letter X and write an equation. So here you'd make, oops, the missing angle is here. You'd write an X. Here's your missing angle. You'd make that an X and write an equation. Here you'd make that an X. Here you'd make that an X. Make that an X, right? And for each one of these, we're writing an equation. Now all of the equations so far, they're going to have a sum of 180 degrees. And that's the same for these two. So we're going to make this X, and the 90 plus the X plus 34 is going to have a sum of 180. Let's make this X. X plus 67 is going to have a sum of 180. Here we're going to make this X. So we have 73 plus X plus 90 is going to be equal to 180. So for this section here, all of your equations will have a sum of 180 degrees. So just make sure you show your work when you do it. And then the last assignment you're going to do, this one's pretty easy, pretty self-explanatory. All right. Here you're going to classify the triangle two ways. If we take a look at this thing here, we see two sides that are the same, so that's equal. That's isosceles. If we're classifying by sides, if we're classifying by angles, all the angles are acute, so it's an acute isosceles. We look for an acute isosceles, and right, number one, we would write acute isosceles. That's going to be letter I. So we'd go down here, number 1, we'd write the letter I. And anywhere else we see a 1, we'd write an I, but I don't see that anywhere. And then the last section you guys are working on is finding the missing angle of the triangle, right? We know that from your video lesson yesterday that the sum of the angles of a triangle have to total 180 degrees. So you're just going to write equations that say that. So you're going to make the missing angle in each one of these triangles x. And let's say if I'm doing problem 8 over here, right, we'd have to have x, this is problem 8. This would be x plus the 54 plus the 101 has to be equal to 180. Right, let's do that again because that's a little too sloppy. All right, move it over a bit. We'd have x plus the 54 plus the 101 has to be equal to 180. We'd add our like terms. 54 and 101 is 155, so we'd have x plus 155 is equal to 180. We'd subtract 155 from both sides of the equation. Right, you're doing this work on a separate sheet of lined paper. Right, they're going to cancel. So x is going to be equal to 180 minus 55. That's going to be 25 degrees. So x is 25 for problem number, what was that, 8? So where I see 8, find the measure of the third angle. So 8, we're going to write what letter? I don't see a letter. Find the missing measure. So 8 is 25 degrees. All right. Let's see. And what we're supposed to do down there, write the letter of the answer in the box containing the number of the exercise. If the answer has it, okay, so oh, there it is. I didn't see it. So we got 25. Oops. So 25 is what letter? I can't find it. Oh, 25 is R. Missed it. So for problem 8, we'd write the letter R. So there's R there. Any other 8s? There's an R there. There's an R there. So there were 3 R's for 8s. All right. So those are the directions for each one of the exercises if you're not sure. And hopefully I'll see you guys Monday.